Ever wonder why some people, as they age, prefer spending more time alone? What if it's not loneliness, but something deeper? As we grow older, the idea of solitude might seem strange or even sad to some. But for many, it's a form of freedom. I'm 70 years old, and I've consciously chosen to avoid people more often. It's not because I don't enjoy company, but because I've discovered something that's completely changed the way I view relationships and my time. Today I'll explain why I've made this choice, and by the end of this video you may find yourself looking at the benefits of solitude in an entirely new light. As we get older, the need for peace and quiet naturally grows. Life starts to slow down, and with that, both literal and metaphorical noise fades away. When I was younger, I was constantly surrounded by people, activities, and social gatherings. There was always something to do, someone to meet, and places to be. But as the years have passed, I've noticed something profound. Life gets quieter, and honestly, I've come to cherish that quiet more than anything. I remember speaking to a dear friend of mine, Clara, who is also in her 70s. She said, "When I was younger, I thrived in the hustle and bustle. Now the idea of a quiet evening at home with just my book and a cup of tea is the highlight of my day." At first I didn't quite understand what she meant, but as I've grown older, I've realized that solitude isn't a lonely place, it's a sanctuary. The constant chatter, the endless events, and even the superficial conversations can feel overwhelming after a while. They demand our energy, attention, and time, but peace and quiet give us something back. They offer a chance to recharge, to think, and to simply be. As I've embraced solitude more, I've found it too. Be a retreat, a place where I can reconnect with myself. I no longer have to entertain anyone's expectations or rush through conversations. Instead, I can sit in silence, reflect on my day, or simply listen to the world around me. It's like a mental rejuvenation, a chance to reset. In these quiet moments, I can reflect on life and appreciate the simple things without the distractions that once seemed so important. It's not about avoiding people, but about creating space for inner peace. When you reach a certain age, you begin to realize that peace isn't just about avoiding noise, forcing. It's about protecting your mental and emotional well-being. And in this peaceful solitude, I found a kind of freedom, unlike anything I could have imagined when I was younger. Now, as we age, we start to realize that socializing, while enjoyable at times, can actually be more draining than it used to be. When I was younger, I could go out for hours, attend multiple events, and still feel energized. But now, after a busy afternoon with friends or family, I find myself needing a long nap or retreating to a quiet corner just to regain my strength. It's not that I don't enjoy the company. On the contrary, I still love connecting with people. It's just that the energy I once had to sustain long social interactions isn't quite the same anymore. Take, for example, a recent gathering I attended. It was a small get-together, nothing too big. But after an hour or so of chatting and moving from group to group, I could feel the exhaustion settling in. It wasn't the kind of tiredness that comes from doing physical work. It was the kind of tiredness that comes from being on all the time, constantly engaging and maintaining conversations. My body and mind just needed a break, but it felt rude to step away. Couldn't help but wonder, when did this become so tiring? This shift in energy levels is something I've heard from many older friends too. As we age, our physical and mental stamina naturally declines. The simple act of being around people, keeping up with conversations, and responding to the dynamics of a social setting can drain our reserves much faster than it used to. It's like running on a battery that doesn't charge as quickly or last as long. And while I still enjoy those moments of connection, I've learned to recognize when my energy is running low and when it's time to gracefully bow out. Now I've found a new rhythm, balancing socializing with more time for rest. I don't force myself into social situations just because I feel obligated. Instead, I've learned to prioritize my energy, reserving it for moments that truly matter. It's not about avoiding people. It's about understanding that my capacity to engage has limits, and I want to spend my energy wisely. As I've gotten older, I've come to realize that solitude offers something invaluable: the opportunity for self-reflection and deeper thinking. When you're constantly surrounded by people or social events, it can be hard to find the space to truly sit with your thoughts and examine your life. But when you're alone, it's a different story. The quiet allows you to slow down and reflect on your experiences, your values, and the direction you want to take in life. For me, time alone has become a treasure chest for personal growth. I've rediscovered hobbies and passions that I had put aside in my younger years. Writing, for example, was something I always enjoyed but never fully embraced. I used to think I didn't have the time or energy for it, but now that I have more solitude, I've found the time to write again. Whether it's journaling my thoughts or working on short stories, it's a form of personal expression that I had neglected for so long. Rediscovering it has brought me a sense of accomplishment and joy that I didn't know I was missing. I remember a particular evening sitting by the window, watching the sunset. I had been reflecting on the years I spent chasing external successes, always trying to please others or meet expectations. But that evening, I realized something. The greatest success was the peace I felt in that moment of stillness. It was a profound realization that I didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. My worth wasn't measured by how many people I entertained or how busy I was, but by the quiet contentment I felt in my own company. That moment of reflection has shaped the way I approach life now. Solitude has allowed me to reconnect with the things that truly matter to me, and it's given me the space to grow into a more thoughtful and self-aware person. It's in the quiet moments that I can hear my own voice clearly, free from the noise of outside expectations. The more I embrace this time, the more I've come to appreciate how essential it is for personal growth. If you take the time to reflect, I believe you'll find that the same holds true for you. Solitude isn't just a place of quiet, it's a place of transformation. As I've grown older, I've noticed that the pressure to meet social expectations, like attending every gathering or constantly staying in touch with everyone, has slowly started to fade. When I was younger, I felt this unspoken obligation to always be available, to always show up, and to constantly maintain a busy social calendar. It was almost like I had to prove that I was active, engaged, and always surrounded by people. The years have gone by, I've realized that these expectations are no longer as important, and honestly, that's been incredibly freeing. In fact, society places a lot of emphasis on being social and constantly engaging with others. There's this underlying idea that the more you socialize, the more connected and relevant you are. But as I've aged, I've found that these societal norms no longer carry the same weight. I no longer feel the need to say yes to every invitation or feel guilty for staying home. It's like I've earned the right to pick and choose what I truly want to invest my time and energy in, and you know what? That feels liberating. I'll never forget a moment a few years ago when I realized this shift. I was invited to a large family gathering. One of those events where you're expected to mingle, catch up with relatives, and participate in the festivities. But I found myself dreading the idea of being around so many people, dealing with small talk, and putting on a face for hours. Instead of forcing myself to go out of obligation, I chose to stay home. I spent the evening reading, reflecting, and just enjoying the quiet. The next day, I felt no regret. In fact, I felt a sense of pride in honoring my own needs over what was expected of me. That moment was a turning point where I realized I didn't need to meet everyone else's idea of what I should be doing. In later years, we can finally shed the need to live up to external expectations. We're free to embrace solitude without the guilt or pressure of being constantly on for others. That freedom, to me, is one of the greatest gifts that comes with age. I've learned that it's okay to step back, take a break from the noise, and focus on what truly brings me joy and peace. As we age, we naturally become more discerning about who we spend our time with. In our younger years, we might have been more open to maintaining relationships out of obligation or a desire to fit in. But as we grow older, we start to recognize the value of our time and energy, and we're no longer willing to waste it on people who drain us or bring negativity into our lives. Toxic relationships, whether they're with family, friends, or acquaintances, become harder to tolerate as we age. We begin to realize that our emotional well-being is far too precious to spend on people who don't contribute to our growth or happiness. One of the most freeing realizations I've had as I've grown older is the ability to say no to people or situations that aren't good for me. There's a level of self-respect that comes with aging, and it allows us to draw healthier boundaries. I remember a few years ago, I had a friend who constantly criticized my choices, belittled my decisions, and seemed to only reach out when they needed something from me. At first I didn't think much of it, but over time I began to notice how emotionally drained I felt after every interaction. My energy seemed to diminish, and my mood always took a hit. That's when I realized it wasn't just a bad day, it was a toxic pattern. After some deep reflection, I decided to distance myself from this relationship. I didn't make a big confrontation or cause a scene, but I gradually pulled back. I stopped initiating contact and learned to say no when they asked for favors or tried to involve me in their drama. At first, there was guilt. I felt like I was letting someone down. But over time, I found peace in knowing that I was protecting myself from unnecessary stress. Choosing to avoid harmful relationships has allowed me to focus on the people who truly bring positivity and value into my life. In our later years, we become more protective of our emotional space. For self. We've learned the hard way that not all relationships are meant to last. And that's okay. It's a form of self-care, acknowledging when a relationship no longer serves us, and choosing to walk away for our own well-being. In doing so, we create room for healthier, more fulfilling connections that help us grow and thrive. One of the most wonderful aspects of choosing solitude as I've gotten older is the freedom to live life on my own terms. When you're no longer tied to the expectations of others, whether it's attending every social event or keeping up with every invitation, you can truly live in a way that feels authentic to you. There's no need to check your calendar for everyone else's schedule or measure your happiness based on what others expect you to do. Instead, you can simply follow what feels right for you, in your own time and at your own pace. I've come to realize that some of my happiest moments happen when I'm doing something just for me. Take, for example, the mornings when I go for a walk in the park. I love those quiet moments. No distractions, no pressure to be anywhere or meet anyone. I can walk at my own pace, take in the beauty of nature, and let my mind wander without any external noise. There's something deeply satisfying about these solo moments. It's not about being alone. It's about reclaiming my time and choosing how to spend it. The sense of freedom that comes with living life on your own terms is incredibly liberating. There's a peace that comes from knowing I don't have to justify my choices to anyone, or worry about meeting other people's expectations. Whether it's reading a book for hours without interruption, picking up a hobby I've long neglected, or simply sitting by the window watching the world go by, I've found that these small moments of solitude bring me a profound sense of contentment. In those moments, I'm reminded that I don't need to be constantly busy or surrounded by people to feel fulfilled. The joy of living on my own terms is a reminder that freedom isn't just about external circumstances. It's about internal peace and the ability to choose what brings me happiness. Conclusion. As we age, the choice to embrace solitude and avoid people isn't about loneliness. It's about finding peace, preserving our energy, and living life on our own terms. I've found that this journey of solitude has brought me more clarity, personal growth, and freedom than I ever expected. I hope you've gained some insight into why, as we get older, we might choose to spend more time alone. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments below by typing a 9 or 0. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.